in the spotlight. I mean, right here in Pennsylvania, as a soccer coach, they have this new law called the Sandusky, because of the Sandusky rule. For those people that may be watching this now or a little bit later, Jerry Sandusky was a Penn State football coach, a very well-known coach, and allegedly, well, actually not allegedly, but he's been convicted and is serving time now for some horrendous things that have happened that he did to unsuspecting kids over a number of years. So not only betraying the trust of those kids, but their parents and family members and alumni and constituents of a major school. We're talking millions and millions of dollars being given to an institution. And here this predator is taking advantage of his title, his position, his reputation, et cetera. And it just goes in so many different directions. But in this case, we were talking about this school coach for
it's a gender reversal. It's typically in the news feeds that I have seen that the child predators, particularly within the sports domain or in education, are male. And it recently the press has been not shielding the female predators. And this particular woman, I mean, she was hounding this poor kid, sending him texts and emails and guilting him. She was part of his counseling and saying, hey, if you don't come into my office, you're really going to hurt me. What are you doing to me? I mean, in this article, it talks about how she manipulated him, and the kid was resistant, pushing back, saying, leave me alone. But this, you're talking about the Sandusky ruling and how coaches now have to fill out multiple forms of background checks. I served in a church youth camp, a vacation Bible school kind of thing, and they had the same kind of requirements for myself that if I'm going to be interacting with kids, that I have to have an FBI background check, a state security check, which I applaud. I think that's fantastic that they're on top of it. But in Pennsylvania, the Sandusky rule, I mean, they're trying to increase the depth of investigation. So apparently in your instance, they had gone through some great depths to do background checks, but the state of Pennsylvania has not ruled on it yet. They're still fighting over the House and Senate on this issue, going back and forth. And I was just reading, because I was just looking about how this woman was communicating with this guy. And part of the thing is, what does the law say? I mean, we have all our own interpretations and what is appropriate, what's not inappropriate, and then how it goes to the law. Well, she was sending sexually explicit images of herself to him. It was reported that she took pictures of her being topless and in a bikini and with lingerie. I mean, it was rather detailed. Well, in doing some additional research, I found similar behavior where teachers and coaches had done this in the state of Texas. So when the state of Texas, when it got into the courts in Texas ruled that it's freedom of speech. They said it's a form of freedom of speech. So they're free to express themselves in images. But when it becomes a minor, it becomes an issue. So this child was 16 years old. Obviously, there's going to be charges filed against this woman if what she has been alleged winds up being verified. News reports that it has been verified, but that's up to a court of law. It just blows my mind that I don't know if it didn't say anything about whether the parents said anything about this. It talks about the child communicating with the teacher, but I'm like, where are the parents in all of this? How do the parents not know the kid's seeing this stuff?
Yeah, I'm probably inclined to say that they are aware of it.
They're aware now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's probably the thing. There's, in some case, I don't claim to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist in any form of the matter, other than being married, and that's a different story for a different day. But trying to place yourself in the role of this kid, I'm sure an extraordinary amount of pressure was going through his head. The whole rite of passage thing. 16-year-old, receiving those types of advances from a mature woman or whatever it might be. I'm sure there was a lot of jokes going around,
Yeah.
and the pressures that he felt, whether on one side of the spectrum or another, were probably extraordinary. There's no doubt about it. If some of the messages, the text messages, and some of the emails that were shared in the article, they're certainly corruptive by its very nature. I think there was some type of message that indicated that he was promised a full ride,
Yeah, to Harvard.
no pun intended,
Get him into
to Harvard University. And yeah, you're totally trying to corrupt the minor by
Well,
insinuating.
put ourselves in that position. We're 16 years old, and your 40-year-old swim coach, regardless of what she looks like, that's your mom.
Right.
That's your mom that is hitting on you and sending you. I mean, I could understand being 16 and being allured by someone that was a 17 or 18 or 15-year-old, and how you'd have to resist that temptation. But I mean, that's just creepy.
Yeah, and then the retribution. We wouldn't even get into any hint of retribution. I don't think that was shared, but the punishment and the pressure of punishment, certainly by a guidance counselor and a coach. If you are an athlete at what appears to be an elite school, and you have the opportunity, you're doing well academically, and you're performing very well as an athlete. Obviously, you've made the team, so that's one level. You've made the team, you're on the team. And if you're a standout athlete and you're performing very well, the ramifications of not performing for, quid pro quo, type of deal. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but, something for something is what's being alleged here. And, we haven't even gotten into the psychology yet behind the twistedness of, hitting on a 16-year-old while you're way, way over the age. I mean, borderline 18, 17-year-old, I can kind of see maybe, it being a question.
It said,
whatever.
It says in the article, Hogan said Fennell used her position as a college counseling administrator and the promise of admission to an elite college as a means to coerce the juvenile into a physical relationship. At one point, he said she texted the youth saying, if you just stop fighting and let it happen, you'd be a lot less uptight and much happier. What? Coerce. Quid pro quo. Come in here, take care of me, make me happy with your young child, and I'll help get you into school. I just shake my head. And that the school is silent.
Yeah, and that kid is probably, obviously they're silent. They're probably extraordinarily embarrassed by, this, alleged situation here. And I guess we have to be careful by saying that, she's guilty or whatever, but, she definitely was arrested, and there's certainly a question as to
she's free on
what's
$7,500 bail is what she's out on.
Yeah, well,
so, yeah, she's still out.
Lock up your kids. But what about the pressure that kid might feel, if his goal was to get into this school?
Yeah.
Let's not even talk about the coach or the guidance counselor. And his goal is to get there, and he's doing everything correctly. He's an elite athlete. He's an elite. He's going to, one of the predominant, academic institutions in the Philadelphia area, Pennsylvania area. And, academically, he's doing extraordinarily well. He's making it on those merits alone. The embarrassment that he might feel to risk that if he, didn't do what his guidance counselor was telling him to do. What are the ramifications of that? I mean, he's probably feeling that extraordinary. I don't know. I don't know this kid. I don't know what he
further. The
did.
fact that he didn't do anything, I mean, that says something about his character, which I would applaud. But even because the event happened, she affected this kid's future just because of her actions. That whether, I mean, his possibility to go to Harvard is now reduced just because of what has come out in the news about this, because Harvard doesn't want to associate themselves with that activity. They want to hide that as well, so that he'll be screened out just because he's brought into this situation. He had nothing to do with it. This predator has changed this kid's life.
Yeah, forever. You can't just take that away.
No. It says as schools prepare for the start of classes, this serves as an important reminder that certain safeguards should be in place to protect students. Well, no kidding. I mean, the schools should be prepared to take action. Parents should be prepared to take action. Hogan said in his release, schools should have policies to limit communication between teachers, coaches, and students to official school matters on school accounts that can be monitored. Well, yeah, the schools should have oversight of their teachers. You know what? They should probably do a background check on them as well. I wonder if in the teaching institution, did they have to have a background check to be a teacher?
Oh, yeah, they do.
So how does a predator who's been a convicted predator go and teach at another school? How's that possible?
They don't.
They do. Because, yes, really? There was a teacher that was in our local school, Phoenixville, that was a teacher of my daughter, that was arrested for possessing child pornography. And then when they went back and did the research, he had other convictions that were sexually related. But he got into it. He was transferred from another school into our school.
In Pennsylvania? Or from
nope, he was in Pennsylvania. He was in another school, Pennsylvania.
Wow, it's extraordinary that can even happen today.
I don't know if is there. I mean, unions are very powerful. Is there a way that they can hide that visibility when teachers move? That kind of information doesn't travel with them? Uh-oh, I lost you, Drew. Maybe refresh. Let's see. You're there. I'm clicking on you. Oh, I think he's coming back. So we were talking about this teacher in Malvern, Pennsylvania, who had been transmitting sexual images over the phone, was sexting this young 16-year-old child, and been doing some research to see if this is. Let's see if he's coming back in. Oh, nope, he didn't. Oh, there he is.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So what did I? Yeah, I went and when I looked through this, I was looking at some of the other events that have happened in the past 10 days. And there was something related to that teacher in Phoenixville that he had been, I'm trying to remember the school it was. It was up like Methacton or north of Methacton. Oh, North Penn. North Penn High School. Huge high school. He was a teacher up there and then got transferred down here 2 years ago because last year he lost his job there. They came in and took him out in handcuffs in school.
There's a good memory for you.
It was really sad because he was a gifted teacher in what he was doing. That doesn't mean that gifted people can't make horrible decisions.
That's true. That's true. So you're the funny thing that maybe it's a good segue. Obviously, this article and this situation is horrible for this kid. and now horrible for this coach. Obviously going through a legal system was probably very complicated, and it's probably going to be very stressful for this person.
Yeah.
With she's probably embarrassed, and I can't even imagine the legal fees on that. Just defending a criminal, a criminal case, and then there's no doubt about it that there will be a civil lawsuit follows as well. And probably the school is going to get involved and whatever. So anyway, during your when you were reading the article, there was obviously there's something needs to be done about it, and I know that you've been doing some work in your program called the Parent Dome.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit about that for anyone that's going to watch this?
Yeah, that's a good idea, because I wanted to help create awareness on how these issues are popping up, and I thought using this tool Blab would help broaden the awareness of the depth of digital risk that's out there. So the reason this popped up on my radar was because she was involved in sexting, using a smartphone to sext images and send texts and emails to this young kid. And my passion is how do you protect kids when in a digitally connected world? And unfortunately, this is a traumatic event that happened that nobody was able to catch it ahead of time. There's so much damage that took place that now everybody's reacting to the trauma as opposed to having the safeguards in place before the trauma were to happen. I don't know who came up with the decision to permit their child to be sending or receiving images between a 40-year-old woman. I don't know where that came into play, but what I've created is a website that is an educationally based platform to help make parents aware of how broad of a problem this is. And this is just like, if you have a pie, this is just one sliver of a threat that's getting in the press. This is happening all the time in various formats. So this educational platform talks about all these digital entry points where this kind of activity can happen, and or other more rampant activity, which is cyberbullying. And in that platform, people can, I guess it's broken down like a syllabus that you have education modules. There's like 28 modules or 30 modules that talk about different topics, talk about all the different types of applications which are used on smartphones, which our kids are involved in. So I've created this platform, and one of the challenges is how to make people aware of these things. So we created like a webinar to kind of give people an introduction to what some of those threats are, what are some of the solutions to them, and what kind of material we provide in an educational format to assist people with that.
That's a great start. Everybody has them. I mean, you walk down the street, everyone has a mobile device. It's so easy to gain access to them.
Oh, shoot, I lost you.
Almost anyone.
You know what? I'm thinking I'm going to share. Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. I think I lost you. But what we were talking about was some of those digital points where kids are at risk. And this is just one that you see the consequence of the risk. The risk was a 16-year-old had a smartphone. Oh, I think you're coming back in. There he is.
There I am. So
I was just explaining that it's very difficult to understand what the risks are and what the consequences are. So I was saying that the risk is that you have a child with whatever device, whether it be your smartphone or a tablet, they're connected to the internet. And whenever they have that digital connection, there's a pipe of communication that's happening, that data is being transmitted back and forth. And if you don't see the data and you don't see the activity on the device, assuming that is safe is insanity. Mm-hmm. So you either have to accept that I don't have the ability to see all the activities that are on there, and I'm willing to tolerate the potential consequence of somebody getting in. So these parents made a decision that putting that device in that 16-year-old's hands, that they were not going to see what was coming on his phone. They weren't going to see the texts. They were going to trust that he was going to be mature enough on how to handle it. And he did. He handled it in a very age-appropriate way. And at some point, it appears that he went to his parents and said, this has gotten out of hand. But the parents obligated their responsibility of making sure their child was safe and deferred that to their child, to a 16-year-old. And me as a parent, I can't take that responsibility because I know how bad it is out there, that I can't refer or defer security to my child, that I have to be active in managing that security because I know all the stuff that's coming on. Unfortunately, these parents either didn't know or chose not to know and trusted that it would be okay. And unfortunately, now they're in a lot of pain. They're in a lot of pain. And that's, I don't know about you, but I hear this all the time. I hear it all the time.
You know, I for the longest time, I was as delusional as a lot of these people are. And until it hits home, you don't realize, you know, the ramifications, and there's so many levels to it. You know, there's, you know, personal, there's physical, there's financial, there's emotional, there's so many levels to this. And it's not just the assailant and the victim. There's families involved, there's taxpayers involved, there's the courts. There's so much that it affects everyone. It affects communities. It's affected you. It's affected me. Here we are talking about this on whenever it is, Wednesday night, in the middle of the week. And it's just, some of these things are worthy of discussion. You know, this platform here on Blab gives us an opportunity to talk about it, to find out what is going on. Maybe, you know, find out what those solutions are, find out, you know, what we can do to prevent some of these things, and perhaps educate our children, our loved ones.
You know, I just, Natasha, you're welcome to take an open seat here, where we're talking about how to protect children on the internet. We're springboarding off of this situation that happened in Pennsylvania, where a coach and a counselor of the school was an actual sexual predator to a 16-year-old boy. I'm right now going to share with Drew a story about YouNow. Have you heard of YouNow, Drew?
No.
All right. This blew my mind because YouNow came up to me. I was writing about it, doing some research, and I thought, wow, this is a crazy app. I don't know how many people are on it. Well, there's a lot of people on it. So it's like FaceTime or like Periscope, that one person can broadcast a video and other people can see it, and there's like a chat roll going on. So my daughter's telling me about this, and she said, Dad, I'm now you famous. I'm like, well, what do you mean you're you famous? So, Natasha, what is it called? YouNow. Oh, I'm sorry. YouNow. If they have it, get rid of it. Take it off. Get rid of it now. And also get rid of Ask FM. So she's you famous, and she's got like 500 people following her on YouNow, and there's a guy that's got 10,000 followers that she's been, yes, Ask FM, get rid of that one. I could talk about that in a moment. You know what, Drew? Do you know where my video? No, I'll get that later. So last night, she comes downstairs and she says, Mom, can I borrow your phone? And we both look at each other. Why do you want Mom's phone? She goes, I want to make a crank phone call. It's like, you're not making any crank phone calls. Not happening. What are you doing this song? Get off. So she got off of Ask FM, off of YouNow. I go do some searching on YouNow, and it is it's like Ask FM. That people ask these questions, they challenge you to do these things, they want you to dance, they want you to twerk, take these challenges, go out in the snow, or put shaving cream in the shape of a heart on your mirror in the bathroom, just stupid stuff. But it improves their visibility and their ranking because they're challenging them further and further. But then the questions start going down, and it like, what color underwear are you wearing? Oh, well, let me see it. I don't believe you. Just this really manipulative stuff. So I went to her and I said, dear, don't believe me. Read this with me to see what is happening on you now. And you were just taken through this process with these people on the internet just to get you famous. And she said, oh my gosh, Dad, because they did want me to prank call. I said, well, I'm reading to you what some other people have found out about this application. And she said, I'm taking it off, Dad. I'm taking it off. And I said, you're right. You're taking it off, or I'm taking it off. But it's just everywhere. And Natasha, I don't know if you've heard of Ask FM. Ask FM is one of the worst applications that a kid can have on their phone. That is the premier destination for sexual predators. And actually, that's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, is because my kid got involved with Ask FM, and we wound up tracking the guy down, who is not a minor, and he had been harassing and being a predator on multiple kids in school, and we wound up putting him in jail. He was convicted of crimes with 20 or 30 different young girls in different schools in the local area. So I don't know if you want to join us, Natasha, or you want to hang back there. It's totally fine.
That's pretty extraordinary. The dangers there. I mean, even some of these kids, when they're growing up with this mobile technology and whatnot, a lot of them, they don't even realize, where we are with technology. They're not used to telephones with cords to them attached to the wall. The whole rotary dial type of deal. Right. I mean, my own kids, asked me. They came across. A vinyl record and a cassette tape, and they're asking me, what is this? For you and I, we know what these things are. They didn't grow up with these things, doubt. Let alone an app. I think they literally laughed themselves, into oblivion when they actually discovered an 8-track tape and asked me how many songs were on it, and I said, well, this one, there's one song on it. And they laugh. They pulled out their iPod and they're like, oh, this has got 5,000 songs on it, right? And now with an app like Spotify, it's like, it's infinity. You've got
right.
Every song ever created is on this application. But the scary point that I wanted to bring up is, with Ask FM, there are a lot of scammable telephone numbers that are out there where if you dial the number, you're charged by the second. Every second that you're on there, you're like automatically billed, an extraordinary amount of money to your wireless bill, and it just like bypasses.
Is that like a 900 number used to be? That if you saw a 900 number,
that's very dangerous. I mean, most of the time, kids are, they think telephones are passe. It's everything's text message now. But in the short thing of, if somebody's being manipulated with something like this, they could unknowingly dial a telephone number based on a prank because of social manipulation, social engineering, because they want to become you famous. There's this reward system that is going to help them become, artificially famous. But unknowingly, if they're dialing this telephone number because they need to prank it, what if your daughter used your telephone number to call this and now you're billed $800 for...
I know. I didn't even make that connection. I didn't make that connection because they could totally send it to a billable number in like the Ukraine or something I didn't even think about that. Now, gosh, now you got me. I got to wrestle that one to the ground. Oh, Natasha's joining us.
Hi, dear.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I haven't heard about the case that you just mentioned, and Pennsylvania until just now, unless I'm confusing it with another case, because it seems like something similar came out recently or is happening more often.
There's no doubt that it's happening more often.
Well, it indeed is. Yeah, it is happening more often. It has not been prevalent in the media. You kind of can't get it through the mainstream media, but it is something. Mainstream media is picking it up at around 3 or 4 cases a day, but the rate is probably around 40 to 50 a day. Believe it or not, this is a really hard thing to say, but because I've been doing some research on this, it's actually heavy. It's a big issue with law enforcement right now. That's becoming now it's now being documented that there's a lot of cases of inappropriate conduct with officers and minors.
Wow. I know I talked to a friend. A few moments ago, you guys were talking about different eras and everything, and how the kids, have a different frame of reference for stuff. And I have a friend, I'm in my 40s, but I have a friend that mentioned, like, casually, we were having a conversation and he mentioned casually that, his high school teacher seduced him, like, back in the 80s. And I was like, what? I was absolutely, like, stunned, but it's the same exact thing that we're talking about today. We talk about social media and all that other stuff and having electronic access to people, but when you're in close proximity anyway and the opportunity presents itself, it was always happening. We just didn't hear about it a lot.
And what's happened is that the children have become more technology advanced than the parents are. So they're using that device 10 times more frequently than in my example, my daughter is on her phone more than I am on my phone. I'm doing work. But she has things on her phone now that I supervise it, that she knows how to work that phone like a master, and I fumble around with it.
Same here.
A bit. But there was I was sharing with somebody last night. Have you ever heard of a Vault application? I'll write this down here.
No.
Vault. A Vault app is a downloadable app. It's a free one, so they can get it through the iTunes Store or Google Play. It appears on their phone like a calculator, and when they open it up, they can hide photos, texts, and other applications in behind a calculator, and it's got a password on it. So you don't know when you look at the phone, you say, "Oh, this just looks like a calculator," but then the kids, they put in their passcode and then open it up, and then all of a sudden they have all of this stuff in there that they don't want their parents to see.
Yeah.
They hide it from them.
Wow. I'm typing this again so that I could screenshot and ask my daughter about it, because I have not, like, the main thing she talks about is Tumblr and Snapchat. Yeah, Tumblr and Snapchat. That's like the thing that she's really, really into.
Does she have Snapchat stories going? Are you familiar? Yeah. So those are kind of cool. If you see them and watch them and track them, that's good. If you don't have the ability to see them, I would check with your cellular carrier to see if you can get a record of them, because I was just talking about Ask FM, and Ask FM is, if I were to put the priority of applications out there right now that are the most dangerous for kids, Ask FM is number 1. I'm going to do this. Make it easy. Number 1, Ask FM. Number 2, Kick.
I forgot about Kick.
Number 3, Snapchat. Those are the top 3 apps used by sexual predators.
Oh my God.
In that order. Now that's for sexual predators of teens. You ready for this one? You ever heard of that one?
No.
Yeah.
You heard of that, Drew? What's the penguin one? It's Magic Penguin.
What is Webkins? What is that? That's making me think of stuffed animals or something.
Exactly. It's like what were those little
Yeah. Yeah,
Beanie Babies?
similar to that,
It
but
was.
it's yeah, it was a kin, something kins.
It's a video
Okay.
game. It's a video game that you have these little animals and you take them through these little challenges and you're able to get pets with them and you travel from village to village and you develop friends. And it's really designed for kids that are probably 5 to 9. And there are more predators on that Webkins than there are actual children using the
Oh
game.
gosh.
Now, I hate saying this kind of stuff, but we want to share this information with people, and if you don't know, you don't know what to
Right, of
protect
course.
against. And predators are incredibly skilled manipulators. They know how to take people down a certain path, and they don't do it in one visit. They build up a relationship. Did you see that social experiment video that
with
came
the
out?
guy pretending to be a teenage kid and he met up with the girl and all that.
What did you think of that?
To watch.
Yeah,
but I can understand how it happened.
Did you share?
Because like the whole social media thing brings people closer quicker, so people have that false sense of intimacy early. It's horrible.
Yes. And what do you do as a parent to help your child not open the door, not go out of the house down to the park, or not get into a van? They think they're safe.
Right. Oh my God, that was horrible. I did see it. Yeah, it was horrible.
Oh, Drew bopped off. Well, before you came on, I was sharing with Drew that this is one issue that we're talking about tonight. Is this the catalyst that caused this was a sext, a sexual image sent through a text by a grown woman to a young boy. That's happening teenager to teenager, an adult to a teenager. Since that happened in our family, I figured out here are all the digital risks that are happening to children, all of the digital entry points where people are getting in. And sexting is on the scale of problems, it's a big one. But I don't know if your daughter has experienced cyberbullying on the internet.
No, she hasn't mentioned that. I'm not aware of any cyberbullying.
So that's good. Then that's very fortunate, because I don't know how old she is, but as they start getting into middle school and into high school, it becomes it's very popular in middle school.
Right. No, she's in high school, but still, it's like people are just crazy.
Yeah, I just attended. My daughter is a freshman in high school, and we just went into the welcome back session. And I was talking with some parents and some of the administrators. And one of the biggest issues in schools, in our local school, is kids cutting.
Oh,
they're cutting.
Yeah.
And that's a direct response to what is happening on the internet. That there's a direct correlation to the communication that's going on through texting and through Facebook and Twitter or whatever, that these kids are taking this feeling of pain and they're releasing it by cutting it. The school psychologist says they're coming in 2, 3, 4 people time at a day.
I believe
it.
It's
a big problem.
Well, I appreciate you putting this blab out here, because I have like 4 or 5 new apps to ask about, to check on the phone and everything. And hopefully, she's not using some of them. And I'll share the information with my friends as well, my mom's group.
Well, if you want, right down here, I just put down a website. It's called parentdome.com. And you can go view that. I've got some free content up there, some videos that talk about some of these apps. I have a video on Ask FM. I also have some information on some other applications. I go into detail onto like how bad Facebook is for kids. talk about cyberbullying, texting. So take a look at that. That
I
might be a good
appreciate it.
thing
I'll
for you.
share
And
it.
there's stuff you can
Excuse
share with
me?
your daughter.
I didn't hear the last thing
Good.
you said.
And you can share that there's videos in there that you can
Oh,
share with
okay.
your daughter
Thank
too.
you. I appreciate it. I will definitely check it out.
Thanks.
Have a good night. Thanks
Great.
for the
You
chat
too.
already.
Sure. Take care. Where'd you go? There he is. Would you have a new background now?
No. I actually am going to test this with the iPhone as my laptop is charging up. So how's the quality?
Sweet.
Pretty good?
It's good. Yeah, it's actually, you're brighter.
Well, you know, I just went and had a facial peel and all that other kind of stuff. It's whatever I'm putting in my coffee. It's, you know, brightening me up a little bit.
Well, I think that was helpful to, I forget what her name was. Natasha, yeah. Because she heard some things that she hadn't heard of Ask FM.
I heard about Ask FM. I just didn't know what the app was. And that's pretty extraordinary to hear, you know, what that actually does. And that's crazy.
It's like, it starts out by a series of questions. You create a profile. It's anonymous. The company's out of Croatia, so it doesn't adhere to laws. There's no age limitation, but it starts out, what's your favorite band? Who's your favorite singer? What's your favorite song? They ask you a series of questions which are rather innocent. And then slowly over time, they introduce innuendo and joke, and then they backpedal from the joke if you interpret it as the wrong side of the innuendo. And then they take it deeper and deeper, and then they just ask you to start doing things and taking a picture of something and sending it. I mean, like you were saying, cyber dust, I think you introduced me to, that it's an interesting concept that you can send a post out there and then it can vanish over a period of time. And that, in theory, can be a nice thing, but you twist it on the other side, it can be used for pretty evil things. And there's some pretty evil people out there.
Indeed, there are. Well, that's this is obviously just the surface level of all this information, and you know, certainly worth more discussion from a lot more people, a lot more participation from more people. You know, almost every parent that's out there needs to talk about this with their kids. I know that we did with our eldest is, you know, there was a situation where, you know, just starting to work with mobile technology, you know, just SMS text messages. And my wife and I often talk about context of social media posts or SMS text messages. You can't always get the inflection of what people are trying to say.
Right.
And,
right.
You know, even an LOL can have a lot of different tones. I mean, it could be, you know, someone
that could be sarcastic.
It could be sarcastic. It could be a nervousness, LOL. You know, it could be just what it is, LOL. And for most people that are, you know, out there, just it is what, you know, they're laughing out loud just because they're laughing at whatever the situation is. But again, the point is, it's very difficult to get the context inside a text message. And for those kids that don't have that, they can't decipher, you know, it's like maybe using that phrase like, I'm going to kill you, right?
Yes.
You know, you're laughing and you're joking and jovial. And when you say the words, I'm going to kill you, it means, you know, I can't believe you did that to me. And, you know, I'm going to get you next time type of deal where you're joking and you're seriously being jovial. But when you read that can be taken as a threat.
Yes.
So,
yes.
You know, a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, you know, saying this to like a friend because they don't know how to process jealousy. They don't know how to process, social situations where like one friend is, you're hanging out every day with somebody, and then all of a sudden, they don't call you, but you find out on Instagram that they went to a party and you weren't invited. That's kind of hard to process when you think that, you should be hanging out with your friend, and the next thing, you weren't invited and you're seeing pictures of all of your other friends together. And so what does that mean? Was I not invited because they don't like me anymore or whatever? And then, some stupid, reason.
Well, I don't think I don't think that your context point discriminates based upon age. Because I often share with people that I work with that when I write an email in response to an email I've received, there's the email that I type and don't send that I'm processing my thoughts, and then there's the new email that I write and do send for that exact reason, because how people interpret your words is critical, and my emails wind up getting lengthy because I want to make sure that there's no misinterpretation or misassignment of a word that I might be using in a sentence. That if at the end of this email you perceive this, that was not my desire. My desire is to take you in this direction, which it's exactly because there's no voice, there's no intonation, and there's no context around the written word.
Right.
That's why books are so long.
Exactly. And I think, the reason that I'm gravitating towards Blab is that we do have that opportunity to have a forum to discuss things. And I think that's why this is becoming so popular, is that there's nothing left out open to interpretation. Art should be left open to interpretation.
That's static. Yeah, it's static and one-dimensional.
Right. Words and interaction, communication with one another, we lose that sometimes, and I think that can bleed over into topics like this, where I don't think anything within that person's this coach's emails were anything other than what was said inside those text messages and those emails. It's going to be kind of, some of those may be hard to be proven, but I think we're all getting the point is, if a coach is not sending you, I don't know. It's pretty questionable whether or not there should be direct contact with a kid anyway. If you're going to send out like coaching lessons or something like that, then, perhaps that communication is delivered through a parent's email, so they see all the correspondence, and or there's a repository for messages for students where it's completely public. Having direct contact to a kid's, cell phone or, to their email account it's just a recipe for disaster, for insinuation and just interpretation. I don't even know. It also speaks to the intelligence of this person. Like, why would you even expose yourself like that? Meaning not in a sexual way, but in.
Right. Why would you make yourself at risk like that?
Right. It's just, I just don't get it. I just don't. It's hard for me to process, and that's part of I think that's one of the reasons why there hasn't been a lot of discussion about this. Is it's a taboo thing that people just don't want to talk about. And what I hear.
Well, they want to talk about it after they had the pain. They want to complain about it after they've had the pain. But they don't want to talk about it in advance of the problem.
Right.
At least they want to, I guess they want to acknowledge it exists, but not to the point that they really want to do something active.
Yeah, well, it's definitely passive, and you always hear that they'll be taken care of in hell, or they'll be taken care of in prison. a lot of cons, they don't tolerate that kind of behavior very well. It's like,
No,
there's a couple things that you don't do.
that's the worst.
That's the worst offense.
Yes, that's the worst.
Anyway, I think it's worthy of a lot more discussion, and intervention. And it's cool to hear that you've done some work on this. I'm going to continue to check that out and discover more and more around us. And sometimes the discussion, sometimes having sessions like this brings some awareness about things that I didn't even consider Webkins. Just like, what can be harmful in a furry little animal?
I know. It blew me away because we had that game as my daughter was growing up, and then I noticed something strange happening with some of the characters because I sat beside her when she played when she was little, and the characters were typing things that were not. They were purposely making typos, but it was so suggestive. I'm like, this is skeevy. I would not. How could you leave a child alone in front of a computer? Well,
it's easy, and a lot of people, it becomes the nanny, it becomes the babysitter, like.
I guess it's like sitting down in front of a TV. Just you have more access to grab stuff.
Yeah, it releases that oxytocin for a lot of people. That's why people spend so much time on Facebook. They spend so much time on whatever. They're getting that artificial interaction that they may or may not be getting at home or, on the playground, which most of those playgrounds are empty these days. And I don't want to sound whatever, like I'm, they're obviously, when they're playing basketball, they're playing it on PlayStation. They're not necessarily at the court, right? Yeah, or Madden. It's crazy. Well, Ryan, I appreciate hanging out with you for this tonight. I think.
This is awesome.
It's probably.
I think I'm going to do one tomorrow on you now that I got some more information about that.
Well,
I think I'm going to do
on the app
introduction on you
not
now.
On me. Not on me specifically.
Yeah, right. right.
For the record, I am not a predator.
No. Well, I know I can vouch for that. Wow. So this was good, Drew. Thanks for stopping in, and I give props out to Natasha for her comments. That was really helpful.
Yeah, I'll spread the word, and I'll certainly blast that out on Twitter and Facebook or whatever when you're doing your sessions. It's definitely worthy of more discussion.
Cool. Thanks,
right,
man.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
See ya.
You too.